going on? This is Sean Maluda, the king of the Savant Kick, and you're listening to Top of the Morning on TopRopeReport.com.
Good morning. You're listening to the soothing sounds of the Top of the Morning podcast. I'm your host, Eric Ames. If you came here for some smooth jazz and something relaxing, well then you're in the wrong place, because this is episode 15 of the Top of the Morning podcast, presented by TopRopeReport.com. This is our Royal Rumble preview and prediction show, and joining me as usual for all of our pay-per-view prediction shows is TopRopeReport.com's Doug Berrill, here to break down the entire card for Sunday at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. So, a big episode, lots to talk about this week, especially with recent reports regarding the WrestleMania card, which we'll get into, and you can check out for yourself on TopRopeReport.com. So we're not going to waste too much time, we're going to jump right into it. Here is episode 15 of the Top of the Morning podcast. Once again, this is the Royal Rumble preview and prediction show, and the guest this week, I guess he's not even really a guest anymore, he's kind of a co-host now, is TopRopeReport.com's Doug Berrill.
We are the omen in the sky.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Welcome to episode 15 of the show, and of course, we are joined by TopRopeReport.com's Doug Berrill, per usual, for our pay-per-view preview and prediction show, with Royal Rumble coming up on Sunday. Doug, what's happening? You're back over at the studio again this time.
Absolutely, and hey, I gotta ask you, because you had mentioned it, how is your streak of days with wrestling going? Because you're right in the middle of that.
It's not too bad because it hasn't, it's basically a normal week so far for me, Of course, this doesn't come out until Saturday morning, but we usually record Thursday night, so it still feels normal right now. I guess I'll have to let you know come, Sunday night with the show starting, or the kickoff show starting at 5, and 6 hours of live coverage on that. So make sure you hashtag get on top on for that to help pay for my carpal tunnel bills in the future.
and I plan to live tweet during that, and I plan to live tweet on the main account. So, if you want to interact on Twitter, please do.
Yep, definitely follow us on Twitter at TRR Wrestling. And of course, we'll get into mine and Doug's Twitter handles, which are meaningless in comparison, I guess, to the TopRopeReport.com handle. But yeah, here we probably won't have time to get into TakeOver because I think we're going to have a lot to say regarding the Royal Rumble. But before we get started, there was a report this week that I think is going to be kind of important with at least my picks for our preview here coming up. So I just wanted to read a little bit of that, which of course you can check out the entire thing on TopRopeReport.com. And the headline is the latest on plans at WrestleMania 33 for Undertaker, Reigns, and more. And of course we all know, the Royal Rumble is the lead-off or the kickoff to the Road to WrestleMania, so that's when everything is really going to start taking shape. And we already know that 3 matches have been locked in reportedly, which are Shaquille O'Neal vs. Big Show, Seth Rollins vs. Triple H, and Goldberg vs. Brock Lesnar. Everything else has really kind of been up in the air until this report came out, courtesy of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, that right now the current plans for WrestleMania 33 have those 3 locked-in matches, which I just stated, in addition to The Undertaker versus Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho, Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton, and a fatal 4-way Raw Women's title match between Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha, and Nia Jax. Also, it's being said that we likely will not see either WWE Champion AJ Styles or Universal Champion Kevin Owens hanging onto their respective titles into WrestleMania. Right now, there's some rumors going on about Randy Orton winning the Royal Rumble, and then Bray Wyatt winning the WWE Championship at Elimination Chamber. So we'll see. This is the latest. On top of that, current plans also look like Samoa Joe making an appearance and facing John Cena at WrestleMania, and then AJ Styles possibly taking on Shane McMahon. So for whatever that's all worth, of course, everybody knows the Wrestling Observer is easily the most reliable source for anything like this. However plans change, they could change tomorrow, and everything I just read might mean absolutely dick. So,
Yeah, I think there's about 12 different ways this could go, and honestly, I think that they don't even know. They don't even know.
I would agree with that. This is easily the least predictable, I think, Royal Rumble in years. Just the Rumble match, I mean. Some of the matches on the card, I think, might be a little predictable.
Right. Well, I think that, this is the time where they really start setting some of those stories into play, and it's not just about, setting a build into WrestleMania for certain matches, but, they need to have some sort of flexibility in terms of what if they change their mind in February. And I think that they're going to wake up on Sunday morning. And it might be game time decisions with a lot of these booking decisions.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. I mean, I wrote in my column maybe 2 weeks ago now, it hasn't been that long, about the WrestleMania 33 card that I would like to see, and within, I want to say less than a week, it was all completely thrown out the window. Mostly because of Chris Jericho winning the U.S. title. I didn't really anticipate that. So yeah, who knows? Vince could wake up tomorrow morning and everything could be completely different. So that said, we'll get into the card for the show here. And I'm pretty sure this is finalized at this point, unless... I don't really see where they would fit something else in there. I know it's a 4-hour event plus the 2-hour pre-show, or kickoff show, which will kick off the action with 2 matches. First off, of course, I put these in order of, I guess, importance in my mind. We don't actually know the order. But we have Sasha Banks taking on Nia Jax. And this, I haven't been overly impressed with either of the Raw women's feuds since Sasha and Charlotte kind of fizzled out finally. I know a lot of people had been getting sick of that, but I knew that it was going to be a tough transition to other storylines just because the Raw women's division is just so depleted, and I still think it's depleted. Especially with Mickie James showing up on SmackDown Live now, which we kind of knew was going to happen for a little bit. I feel like for this, a lot of my picks are, of course, thinking about WrestleMania in the future. Sasha's going into this with a kayfabe injury, so I think that plays a big part in this. And I don't really see how Nia Jax can lay claim to a title shot if you're going to have that fatal 4-way match at WrestleMania if she doesn't beat Sasha here. So I'm going to go with Nia Jax.
Yeah, the women's division on Raw is really suffering from a hangover, and like you said, even though it seemed that Charlotte and Sasha, went for a long time, and people wanted something new, it went for a long time for a reason. They're the 2 best things going right now. It feels a little weird seeing Sasha Banks in the kickoff show after main eventing, being one of the 2 first women to main event a pay-per-view not too long ago. But that's fine. That's fine. I really am not that invested in this. And I think that you said it. How can Sasha win here and then have Nia Jax, who has been spending the majority of her time since she was drafted working squash matches
Yeah, I mean,
and waiting
she
for
got
real.
pinned one time, I think, in
Yeah,
that time period.
that's the only one I can think of, and
Not counting NXT because I know that she had lost to Asuka. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure she lost a match on Raw. But anyways,
yeah, I mean, how can you put her in a match with one of the two most capable women on Raw, have her go down, but then still justify her spot in that fatal four-way if that's the match that's going to happen? I think that Sasha can afford to lose here, and Nia Jax, it would be a good marquee win for her.
right. Plus, I don't know. I wouldn't like the idea of her losing to Sasha at less than 100%. You know what I mean? I think
That would really hurt her.
Right. I think that plays a key role as well. It's all right. We're 1-for-1 on agreeing.
Yep.
So we'll have to.
Don't worry,
Well,
the Battle
I was gonna say,
Royal is
we'll-
going to be a free-for-all.
We'll have to swap that up, or else there might be some sword fighting going on today. All right. So next up on the kickoff show, the second match. It is for the Raw Tag Team Championship, and of course there is going to be 2 referees assigned to this contest. The Raw Tag Team Champions Cesaro and Sheamus taking on Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson.
Gallows and Anderson, as we know, they probably should have beat the New Day back when they had the opportunity. Granted, New Day would not have had their record-breaking run, and that's what they were going for, but that really stopped their momentum, and they've really not done a good job of booking this tag team for the majority of the time that they've been here. They've done some good things. They've done a lot of questionable things. They've taken losses where they shouldn't have taken losses. You know, the New Day, it really wasn't that long ago that they dropped the belts to Cesaro and Sheamus. It was back in December. And so now Gallows and Anderson step up again. Now, if they fall to the New Day after multiple attempts, and now here they are with Cesaro and Sheamus, and they fall short again, where does that leave them? So I'm really torn on this match. It's one of the most torn I am on the card because Cesaro and Sheamus, they're making it work. You know, when they first were put together, I really was rolling my eyes. But not only have they made it work, a lot of people, like, they're kind of over, you know? And I don't know what their plan for WrestleMania in terms of the tag team scene is, and I don't know what their plan for Cesaro and Sheamus are in terms of whether they're going to stick together because they have been doing well, or if they're going to ultimately go back to singles competition. If Gallows and Anderson lose here, their stock is just not where it needs to be, so I think I'm going to go with Gallows and Anderson.
I was going to say the fan in me is going to go with Gallows and Anderson on this, but I'm glad that you came up with a good argument for it because I completely agree with you. They dropped the ball on them against New Day. We don't know what's going to happen as far as the tag team scene, like you said, at WrestleMania. So I'm going to kind of stick with what I had written originally and maybe some sort of a multi-team match, either a tag team turmoil or something like that. So I think the best way to go about that is for Gallows and Anderson to actually win the titles. And then you can kind of include New Day, who will, I guess, still be able to lay claim to having a shot at the straps. Cesaro and Sheamus, of course. And then I think you throw Enzo and Cass in there as well, because I just feel like they deserve to be on WrestleMania. Yeah. So you kind of position those 3 face teams against the heels, because you really don't have another heel team, honestly. I mean, you got Shining Stars, and as much as I think those guys are talented, they just, I don't know, it never seems to work for them. They're just not over. So I know that's a pretty out there prediction for me, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Gallows and Anderson on that for basically all the same reasons you said. I'd like to see them get back on track, because if they don't, then I don't really know where you go with them from this point moving forward. And yeah, I think Cesaro and Sheamus could be better used as singles. So maybe after WrestleMania they split up. Cesaro has all the capabilities to be wrestling in main events. So, I mean, that's definitely something I'd like to see. I don't necessarily think we're going to. And of course, Sheamus can step up in there as well. So that will give us some fresh faces in the main event scene over on the Raw side of things.
I think a lot of fans are desperate for that opportunity for Cesaro.
I would definitely agree with that. The Cesaro section is banging at the dinner table, saying to feed us right now. So, all right. So onto the main show. Again, we don't know the exact order, so I'm just going by order of importance in my mind, anyway. On the SmackDown side of things, we have a recently added 6-woman tag team match that will see the SmackDown Women's Champion Alexa Bliss teaming up with the newly returned Mickie James and Natalya against Nikki Bella, Becky Lynch, and Naomi. So, in my mind, this match here is completely set up for the heels to win, just because you got Mickie James. I don't know. I feel like that side needs to pick up a win, just to keep the momentum going. We don't really know what they're gonna do with that side of things, but I'm assuming another multi-female match for the SmackDown Women's title at WrestleMania. I mean, if any side or any brand has the capability to pull that off and throw in 6 women or maybe like a championship scramble or something of that nature, it's definitely the SmackDown side of things.
Yeah, I agree. And when I first looked at it, I agreed that the heels probably had the better shot. Here's my thing that made me change my mind is Naomi, because she might be in position to challenge for that belt. Obviously, we've seen that a little bit so far. So,
well deserved, by the way, because she's, in my opinion, been very underrated for a long time, and she's easily the most athletic, I almost called him diva, female superstar that they have on either side. So long as she can keep herself healthy, anyways.
So I look at this as an opportunity for somebody like Naomi to pin the champion. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a good argument there. I could see that happening. I don't know. Something's just telling me that this is tailor-made for the heels to go over. And then for, everything to just continue on into Elimination Chamber, they could do it in such a way that Naomi still looks good against Alexa, and, Mickie James picks up the pinfall over Becky or something like that, and then see Naomi get her title shot, probably at Elimination Chamber, would be my guess, because, SmackDown's got the next pay-per-view in 2 weeks, and then they got time to fill after that until WrestleMania, so I don't know. There will be a quick turnaround on these feuds. I feel like it's a good opportunity for Naomi, but at the same time, I think that she might be just kind of a plug-in challenger for Elimination Chamber.
Sure. Yeah, I gotcha. No, my gut went with the heels right away, but I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna go with the baby faces.
Bloody nose Berrill.
All right.
Different. Doug was late here today because he got a bloody nose, so that's
dry air is miserable in Maine.
That's his new nickname from me for the evening, or for the morning for those listening on Saturday morning. All right, so on to our first title match on the main card. It is for the Cruiserweight Championship, pitting the champion Rich Swann up against the self-proclaimed king of the Cruiserweights, looking to take his quote-unquote rightful place on the throne, Neville.
Yeah, and one thing about the Cruiserweight belt ever since it came after the CWC was a little bit of a worry that it was becoming too flippy. And so to change hands again, you think, well, okay, you're keeping it flippy, but I just don't see a better time because Neville's the best thing they got going. He's one of the best things on the show, in my opinion, ever since his heel turn. He's fantastic, and he was one of those guys who, before he joined the cruiserweight scene, it was questionable whether he would join the cruiserweight division or if they would keep him, on the regular roster.
I was against it, to be honest with you. I was one of the ones against it.
I was really torn because it's one of those things where he can either be the king of the cruiserweight, division, literally.
The real challenge is going to be if he ever transitions out of the division.
That's what I was thinking too. But you know what? He's there, and he has the cruiserweight division has really their big problem early on was lacking storytelling that got fans invested, and they're doing a better job overall now. But I think Neville is for
205
me.
Live had a lot to do with that, because
Sure.
originally they didn't have their own show, so I think that definitely plays a major part in it too, because now you're seeing really entertaining stuff from guys like Gallagher. I don't know if you've caught any of the stuff that he
I
did.
have, yeah. No, there's
that guy is very entertaining. I definitely enjoy his work. He's very funny.
And then when they actually have a match on Raw, it's more of a feature. It's more
It's almost it's a lot of times it's a setup for 205 Live, like setting something up for the next night.
right. It's almost like a glorified advertisement for 205 Live, and so because that was the problem early on was with the cruiserweight division, they'd have their matches on Raw, and you just throw 6 guys who are all immensely talented, who aren't telling any stories, but they're all just being thrown together, putting on a match, and you were just calling that the division. Now you can have these matches on Raw, and then they can sell 205 Live, and the matches will mean more. But really, you can just feature those guys to a larger audience, and
they're all starting to have gimmicks and characters,
and that's huge,
is
and
massive.
And it'll get more people interested in 205 Live. So, and yeah, I mean Gallagher's great, Dar's great. Like they are telling
Mustafa Ali.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mustafa Ali. That guy can flat out fly.
Yeah, so they're just doing such a better job of actually telling interesting, engaging stories. And one of my favorites is Neville's heel turn, and I think he's gonna win.
Yeah, I'm with you. Also, before I get into my pick, shout out to Sean Maluta too. WWE,
Oh, yeah.
you need to get that boy signed.
Yeah.
His showing against Kendrick a couple weeks back, not just the fact that I know the guy now, but it was tremendous, and he puts forth a great effort every time he's on the program. So give that boy a deal, for crying out loud.
Yeah, great guy, great performer.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, much like my feelings on the women's 6-woman tag, I think this is tailor-made for Neville to take the title. I felt like originally they gave up on TJ Perkins too quickly. I mean, it makes sense to me now why they did it, because now Kendrick has really kind of established himself where, it primarily, people remembered Kendrick a little bit, I guess. Some of the more schooled fans, but new fans wouldn't have any idea who he is. So that kind of established him in the division. Of course, TJ, I guess you could have looked at him as already established from winning the tournament and being the first champion. So I can see what they're doing. They kind of have been using that title to establish stars within the division, and I think it's worked up to this point, because now Kendrick is really, it's kind of interesting just to see what he's got going on. I know his angle with Tajiri kind of fell by the wayside because Tajiri got hurt, but
It's amazing what character development does to overall depth, because they were obviously all talented in the ring, but you need that other aspect, because when you just throw guys who are talented, they're going to put on a good match for you, but if you're not invested, you're not going to want to tune in every week.
Exactly.
You'll tune in when you feel like it every once in a while, but you're not going to feel like you're missing anything.
Right. Yeah, I definitely, but yeah, I got to go with Neville. I mean, he's, like you said, he's the hottest thing they got, and he's easily the biggest name. I know some of these other guys are starting to really make a name for themselves, but everybody who was watching prior to the Cruiserweight division knew who Neville was, so.
And he's a good guy for the baby faces to chase for a while.
Exactly. I think we might be in another multi-man match scenario for WrestleMania, so, they have a plethora of baby faces as well, so I thought that it made more sense, back before Swan took the title, for Kendrick to have it, just because you've got TJ, and you got Swan, and you got Cedric, you got Mustafa Ali coming up now, you got Gallagher, they got way more baby faces than heels, so, yeah, that definitely, it's a lot more logical to have Neville have the title right now. Alright, moving on. to the second championship match on the main show. It is for the Raw Women's Championship. Of course, the champion Charlotte Flair taking on the challenger Bayley. So similarly to my feelings, about Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax, I'm not overly invested in this one either. I know that the company kind of sees Bayley as this, I guess, female version of John Cena. But to me, watching her in NXT all that time, I don't know if it's just kind of wearing thin on me, but maybe it's just her promos. They don't really do anything for me. But I was much more invested in the Charlotte-Sasha feud than I am in this one. I don't know. I really don't see Bayley winning the championship this go around. I think something will happen, whether it's a DQ or something will happen to have to advance this storyline. So I think Charlotte retains, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really have too much to say about this one because I'm just not really that interested.
I was gonna say that the hangover of Charlotte and Sasha is very real, and it's real for both of these matches. And if you told me, 3-4 months ago, yeah, they're gonna move from Sasha Charlotte to Charlotte Bayley, I'd be like, yeah, that's gonna be great. Everybody loves Bayley. She's so, she's always been so popular. But it really does. It feels like she's having a hard time sticking her feet on the ground. She'll go out and have a good match, do a good thing, but yeah, then sometimes she'll do a backstage segment or something like that, and it doesn't feel flat. There's something missing with her.
Right, something is definitely missing right now. It doesn't feel as important, as what was going on with Charlotte and Sasha to me. And I don't know. Maybe Bayley needs to, have something happen where she tweaks that character a little bit and gets more aggressive, like she did with her matches with Asuka. But yeah, like you said, something's missing, and I can't quite put my finger on it. But with that being said, I got to stick with Charlotte. I could see her going as WrestleMania defending in that Fatal 4-Way. I don't think they move the title at this point.
Yeah, we agree a lot, and I expected to agree a lot on these lead-up matches to the Battle Royal. So, and with the 2 championship matches left, I think that it would be... I have a feeling we might, even if it's reluctant, end up going with the same guy, but it's for totally different reasons. It's because of all of these reports about what WWE is planning. So I agree. Charlotte retains. We're probably going to agree on the last 2 title matches, but
we might.
For very different reasons.
Yeah, so, we may. We'll see. Well, we'll find out right now with the first of those 2 title matches for the Universal Championship. It is a no disqualification match, and of course the United States Champion Chris Jericho will be suspended above the ring in a shark cage like a sexy piñata. And of course, the champion, Kevin Owens, is defending against Roman Reigns. I'll let you bat lead off on this one, Doug.
Okay, everybody knows I'm a mark for Chris Jericho. Do you know what I hated about that United States title win? And it's not the fact that it might be indicative of Reigns winning this match. I know that it's almost become a joke in the wrestling community, the phrase, make Roman look strong. And, but, Kevin Owens' run as Universal Champion has been very entertaining, but he needs to be booked stronger. And I know that some of that...
100% agreed.
Some of that has to do with the dynamic with Jericho, but I'm trying to think of when it's okay for Jericho to get involved to a certain extent and sometimes, but I'm just trying to think of a good example of when Kevin Owens retained his title and he just looked like a total badass. And because Kevin Owens is a total badass, and that's what's missing. It's something I'm going to talk a little bit more once we get to the actual Battle Royal part of the match. But when Jericho won that U.S. title, Reigns was fending off both of those guys so hard, and it was still almost not enough.
Yeah.
That's what drove me crazy about it. Because you've got your Universal Champion. He should be booked strong. And you've got Jericho, who, yes, he's in more of a sidekick role during this run, but he is one of the most decorated champions in the company's history. So those are two guys. And when you've got both of them ganging up on Roman Reigns, and it's almost not enough, that drove me nuts.
Yeah,
I don't know about you.
No, I was thinking the same thing while watching that match. I'm thinking to myself, like, they're going to have Roman Reigns beat their champion and Chris Jericho
Right.
at the same time to retain the title. I was completely shocked that Jericho took the title. And I kind of felt like, Roman would end up taking it back real quick, but I don't feel that way anymore. Obviously, he already had... I mean, he did have his rematch, and it ended in a DQ, so technically, he could lay claim to another shot at it, which I guess is another one of those open avenues heading into WrestleMania that we don't really, we're still kind of hypothesizing about, because we don't really know what's going to happen yet. Unfortunately, I don't know, the first thing that came to my mind when Jericho won that U.S. title was Roman's going to beat Owens for the Universal Championship. And I think I'm going to have to stick to that as much as I don't want it to happen. I feel like, I hate the fact that him and Styles have both held on to their titles for so long, and now it seems like we're about to get into WrestleMania.
Two company men.
Right.
Company
so
favorites.
we need to take those titles off of them and get them into another program. I don't know how you feel about that, but I just let them take it into Mania. I don't think they're going to. But
I guess I don't think that backstage looks at him as like the money guy. Obviously, they know John Cena's the money guy, and they have wanted Roman Reigns to be the money guy. And to be fair, Roman Reigns does quite well in terms of drawing. But for people are going to watch WrestleMania. That's just a fact. And I know we've talked about before, the Universal title match we both want to see is Owens and Finn Balor. And so that's why...
I called for a triple threat, Owens, Jericho, and Finn Balor.
And I think that would be, even more interesting, what you could do in the build for that. That would be great. But yeah, Jericho has the U.S. title, which... if it's going to be Owens and Jericho at WrestleMania, puts a belt on the line, Owens probably wins it, at WrestleMania, and Jericho says goodbye. And it's just, sometimes being predictable is okay if it makes sense. If it's the right thing to do, being predictable is okay. But this feels predictable, and it just feels so meh. Yeah.
Right, yeah, like I said, I wanted Owens, Jericho, and Balor at WrestleMania, and then that way, Finn can come in with an immediate storyline, because he can still lay claim to that championship since he never lost it. You can continue on with your Jericho and Owens angle, which is inevitable. We all knew it was going to happen eventually, because we don't know how much longer Jericho is going to be around. Most are assuming he's gone after WrestleMania. I'm still kind of that same assumption as well.
Yeah.
But you could have had it so that Balor pinned Jericho for the title, thus having Owens kind of lose his cool on Jericho, and
right.
Jericho rides off into the sunset, has a built-in storyline for when he returns to get revenge on Owens, but then Owens and Balor are off into the summer feuding over the championships. And we all know how good that is, because we saw it in NXT for quite a while.
I think that's a great way to book it. Unfortunately, I just don't think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think that the sexy piñata hanging over the ring is going to try to do something to help Owens win, and it's going to backfire.
I agree 100% on that. Yeah, that's exactly how I think Roman ends up winning the title.
Because you're not going to put Chris Jericho... obviously, it's kind of goofy, and it's... it'll make some people laugh, and he'll probably be really hamming it up there. But you're not going to just put him up there and have nothing happen.
Right. Similar to TakeOver Toronto when, NXT, I guess, did were the guinea pigs of this shark cage gimmick for the Authors of Pain match there. And,
Yeah.
Paul Ellering, when he dropped some kind of an object in the ring anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Jericho, I definitely agree with you. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't necessarily think it's going to be the Rumble winner to face Roman, though. But we'll get into that. We got one more match to go.
Sure.
And, of course, this one is another title match. It is for the WWE Championship, the third installment of AJ Styles, the champion, taking on John Cena. So, this one, this might be, other than the Rumble match, the one that I'm torn on the most, because I really could see it going either way, and I think you can make an argument either way. Are they possibly going to let Cena lose to AJ Styles on pay-per-view 3 times like this in a row? That's a really tough sell to me. However, I think that AJ needs to hang on to that belt until Elimination Chamber in order for them to go through with the plans that they reportedly have now. So, the seeds have been planted between Shane McMahon and AJ Styles for the last couple of weeks on SmackDown, with AJ thinking that Shane's not treating him fairly and, making an Elimination Chamber match for the title. So I think it would be appropriate for AJ to lose the belt there. So I'm going to pick AJ in this match. However, my big, bold prediction for this is there's been a lot of rumors of Samoa Joe showing up as a participant in the Royal Rumble. I think that he shows up not in the Royal Rumble, but he interferes in this match and costs Cena the match, and then leads into them at WrestleMania. Using the fact that Cena's been cutting these promos, the new era runs through me kind of stuff. So what better way for Joe to make an impact rather than just throw him in the Rumble match? Because I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think you could agree with me that Joe is probably not going to win the Rumble.
Yeah, I think there's like 8 guys that can win the Rumble.
I think it's a chance, but I think
I would throw his name into that 8, but it's not my pick.
Like if you're not going to have him win the Rumble, I don't think you put him in the Rumble. Is basically what I'm saying, because then he's just kind of another name. I know it was different for AJ Styles last year, but that was his first appearance, and there was a totally different case with him anyway.
Sure.
Special case. So that being said, I think Joe kind of uses that, Cena's words, to interfere, cost Cena the match, and that's how you can kind of, sell it to people that Cena would lose 3 in a row to AJ. Then AJ goes to Elimination Chamber, loses the title, blames it all on Shane McMahon, and then you're going into WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Follow that.
There's so much to think about with this one, and you said it. It all has to do with who their WrestleMania opponent's going to be.
Right. On the other hand, I would not be shocked at in the least if John Cena won the match.
Right. Yeah. I think it really. You know what I wish that Cena would do a little bit more of. And I know that they've had some. Okay.
How many options do you need? How much time you got?
No, they've had some good promos, just like they did last year. But I really feel I don't get the sense from Cena that he's really hurting from the fact that he was bested big time twice. I feel like he could do that a little bit more.
Sidebar, I just totally noticed we have the network on in the background, and Holy Foley is on, and I could totally see Noelle Foley's butt through those yoga pants.
That's a good sight.
Yes. Distraction. All right.
Moving on. Focus. I feel... I don't know if it's just me. I feel like he could sell that a little bit more, but he's John Cena, so he's not going to. He's still going to go out, lose to AJ Styles twice, and say the road comes through me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it boils down for me the fact that Styles is going to have. They're both going to have options, but I think you said it best when you said, "Is AJ Styles going to go 3-0?" against John Cena? I would like to see that. I just don't think it's going to happen, so I'm going to go with Cena.
Oh, opposites, huh? All right. I will duel you later, sir. All right, so that leads us up to the big match, the really wide open Royal Rumble field. Like you said, there's really, I could probably come up with 8 guys that I could make a case for winning this match. But before we do that, let's run down who has been confirmed so far. Anyway, of course, in no particular order, or maybe this isn't in order. I can't remember how I did it originally. But we have Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, Big E, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, Chris Jericho, Braun Strowman, Baron Corbin, The Undertaker, Dean Ambrose, The Miz, Dolph Ziggler, Cesaro, Sheamus, Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, Randy Orton, Big Show, Sami Zayn, because he beat Seth Rollins for his spot, Big Cass, Rusev, and then, of course, on SmackDown Live, Mojo Rawley won a Battle Royal. It was a pretty trying battle royal. It was Mojo and Kurt Hawkins and like 8 other guys that were all tag team members or something of that nature. So yeah, it was.
Can we do a sidebar before we get into this?
Absolutely.
Seth Rollins, he's not on the show, and you've got to imagine that something's going to happen.
I have a little prediction on that.
Okay, because I was going to say he's got to be on the show. And it probably is going to have something to do with you-know-who. But I just don't... He's not on the card.
We'll definitely get into that. Well, I guess we might as well kick off with this because, who really knows? Like we said, there's so many ways this could go, and I don't feel confident about anything I've said today, by the way. So take that for what it's worth. I don't know how legit this episode's going to be because, this is the most exciting Royal Rumble in some years that I can remember, because in years previous, we all knew who was going to win heading into it, well in advance. Like last year, I think you might have even wrote about it, we did a pick'em, kind of a, fill out all the entries and pick your winner, and I want to say pretty much everybody picked Triple H, so, and this isn't even all people that follow wrestling, this is just, some of them just overheard others talking, basically.
Yeah.
But that's not the case this year. So maybe we should run down a couple of guys and see, what we can come up with, make a case for them. Because I know that you had gotten a couple of entries from a couple of followers on Twitter. So why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah. As we talk, if any of them had anything on their list that has to do with what we're talking about or who might go in where, I will definitely mention it. But just a big shout out to Debbie from Texas, Rachel from Massachusetts. They're 2 people that have followed the site and really shown a lot of support. And we appreciate that.
2 Fan of the Month winners.
Right, yes. And so they both sent me their picks. I'm not just going to recite them 1 through 30. I'll definitely tell you at the end who they have winning and any interesting surprise returns, which appear on both lists.
Yeah, we'll come up with I think a top 5 surprises returns, because there's 22 confirmed entries, but I could probably come up with 8 guys that I wouldn't be surprised to see them return at all.
Yeah.
So let's run down, kind of make a case for a couple of guys here. So let's start off with The Undertaker. So I think there's a really strong case for The Undertaker to win this, especially if you're going off my picks with Roman. I had Roman winning the Universal title, and if they're going to face off at WrestleMania, that's kind of the logical way to get there. So I don't really see him. I guess AJ would probably have to hang on to the WWE title in order for Undertaker to go after somebody on SmackDown. If the John Cena match is completely dead, which it appears to be, which is a huge mistake in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. So, yeah, I think Undertaker is. I'm not picking him to win, but it would not come as a shock to me at all.
Yeah, well, you started with my winner.
All right.
I've got Taker, and he was somebody I thought about hard for a while, and then when they scrapped the Cena match, but again, they change their mind all the time. You just never know when they scrapped the Cena match, I said, okay, maybe not. Right now, on my list, I've got Undertaker coming out at 25 and taking the thing. And it is there's so much diversity because really, the Cena match they say it's scrapped. It might not be. He could easily go with either SmackDown champion right now. And yeah, Roman Reigns is probably going to win, and that's been a rumored match too. So that's not just one potential matchup, that's three. And when I start thinking about what the dynamic of the other guys are, a lot of them have stories that don't need titles. And I know that Taker doesn't need a title to be super over at WrestleMania, but I just think that there's so many options with him.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, the next two contenders that I was going to get into was Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, and I think you kind of just said it, they don't really need a title for that program. Again, anything is entirely possible. Would it shock me? No, it would not. But then you'd have to figure out some way to get the Universal Championship on the one that didn't win. So, if Lesnar wins the Rumble, then you got to figure out a way to get the title onto Goldberg, which you can feasibly do because you still have Fastlane coming up on March 5th, I believe. It's definitely in March anyway. So, yeah, it doesn't need it. Would it shock me? Not really.
Yeah, with those guys, I was just thinking to myself, the dynamic of the Royal Rumble. Since there's so many guys that you don't want to see get eliminated immediately, or they shouldn't be eliminated immediately. However, if they're in the ring with all these other guys, well, maybe they should be. It was really hard to build an order for this because sometimes it gets a little crowded, and then sometimes somebody comes in and just cleans house. There's a lot of guys like
that. The booking of this match will be very, very interesting with the amount of big names already confirmed and just big men in general, and then whatever they come up with for surprises, which I'm anticipating at least a couple of big names in there.
And so I think with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, one or both, you think to yourself, well, I could totally see these guys coming out right out of the gate early. Debbie's got Goldberg at 1. I've seen a lot of people put Goldberg at 1, so that's a popular pick. I could also see them coming in the middle and doing that house cleaning and then going after each other. I've got them both somewhere in the 20s. My last, I would say 8 picks in particular, I think create a lot of interesting story, and it's going to be a super heavyweight ring. I think during the time of the last 10 picks and however it plays out before the winner is just going to be insane. And so I have both of those guys falling in there. I think they're going to be super involved with one another. They're obviously going to get some eliminations along the way, but I see them not letting go of each other. I can see that bad blood boiling. And the reason I don't have either one of them winning, and it's like, wow, geez, how can Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, how can you not have them as the winner? Well, somebody's got to win this thing, and there's so many good choices here. And I can see them getting so involved with one another and just beating each other to a bloody pulp that they get blindsided.
Yep, I would agree with that as well. Let's move on to another contender, Braun Strowman. So there's been a lot of, there had been a lot of rumors about a Braun and Roman feud. And, of course, if you have Braun win the Royal Rumble and Roman wins the title earlier in the night, that sets it up perfectly for WrestleMania. I think the real question is, would Braun be ready for such a spot? I feel more confident in him being ready for such a spot this year as opposed to last year when there was rumors of him facing Undertaker. I did not feel confident in that at all. Way too soon on him.
It's funny how things change, in just a year because, yeah, there was so much backlash last year, but especially since the brand split. He's been really good. Like he really, like not just has he improved in the ring, but like he's actually an interesting backstage guy, because obviously, he's that strong, somewhat quiet, but when he speaks, it's powerful. He throws an interesting dynamic into a lot of different situations. It made me laugh every time he would interact with Owens and Jericho. Like I thought that was some funny stuff. I've got him coming out at 3 because he's obviously got to look strong. There's going to be a lot of guys on this whole thing coming out looking strong. So I'm thinking to myself, how can Braun Strowman look strong? I got Sami Zayn and Apollo Crews. That's one of my 8 spots. So
Yeah,
kicking it off.
I would go with Cruz as well.
So I've got those 2 guys kicking it off, and I can see guys like Zayn and Cruz. I mean, they only have a couple minutes, but just getting as much in as they can, just high energy, crazy work, just to start the match off hot. And I can just hear that start of his music coming out at 3, and oh crap, here comes the big man.
I could see him running through some guys like, Sammy eliminating him, Cruz eliminating him, maybe a Kalisto, Xavier Woods, possibly even Mojo Rawley. I could see him run through a few guys just to keep him looking strong before he is inevitably eliminated, because I don't see him winning it. I think he's definitely would it shock me? Like I said before, no, it would not shock me.
Well, speaking of him running through guys, that it kind of is related to who's my number 4, who comes out after Braun comes and cleans out the ring, and there'll be people that will roll their eyes. Yes, I have James Ellsworth coming out at 4, because obviously that's how James Ellsworth got over, was his squash match with Braun, but I can just totally see Braun cleaning the ring, and then here comes Ellsworth doing his little, oh, I'm so excited for this opportunity gimmick, and oh my word, I have to get squashed by Braun Strowman again.
If you would have asked me maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago if he was going to be in the Royal Rumble, I would say definitely, but now I wouldn't put him in. Not personally. I think his flame has fizzled out already, and they're kind of reaching on stuff with him.
They are. I've seen it like he was making a real appeal. He was trying to appeal to people to call for his name, and I think I only have I think my list is relatively. I played it safe. I was telling you earlier. I think I played it too safe, and so Ellsworth is one of my more out there picks. And my number 30, which I can't wait, is my most out there pick.
All right, before we get into our surprises, we'll go over one more contender, and that would be your boy Chris Jericho, Doug.
Well, Rachel from Massachusetts, who sent a list.
Shout out Rachel. What up, Rach?
That's her winner. He is my boy, and wasn't he supposed to win in 2012, and then they switched it to Sheamus? Am I right about that?
I honestly don't remember. You could be right on that. Was that the CM Punk year?
Yes.
Yeah, that's entirely possible, because he ended up facing Punk for the title anyway.
Yeah. So, and then Sheamus just went on to beat Daniel Bryan in less than 30 seconds. Yeah.
Yes, in a most momentous match on the Showcase of Immortals.
Yeah, right. So
the one that legends are made of.
I could see. I had written a column on TopRopeReport.com that talked a little bit about my Rumble picks, and I threw Jericho out because of his inevitable, feud with Kevin Owens. But the best way I could see it is if he was involved in some kind of triple threat like you had mentioned. Mm-hmm. But then I'm thinking to myself, out of 3 guys going into the triple threat, I don't know if Jericho needs that run. Or not run, but rub, rather. Like, he doesn't need that accolade as much as maybe somebody else might. So I kind of put him aside based on that. But he's been so popular in the last year, and really anything could happen.
Yeah, I don't think Jericho's a bad choice at all. I mean, this is, of course, assuming that Owens remains the Universal Champion. But yeah, like you said, that angle doesn't really need for him to win the Royal Rumble if you're gonna go that route with or without the title. So yeah, I don't think it will be Jericho, and like you said, he definitely doesn't need the accolade, but I definitely had to think kind of twice about him anyway. So let's get into the surprises. I'll kick this one off. I probably could have come up with more than 5, but we're gonna limit it to 5. So returns, debuts. I have to start off by saying that Kenny Omega, it's not gonna happen, people. I don't see it. If it does, feel free to blast me on Twitter later on at TRR_Ames. Go for it. So he's out. He's not in there. This is in no particular order, but first and foremost, Finn Balor. I think that's an obvious choice for a lot of people. There was a report that he was going to possibly get cleared this week. Haven't heard any kind of a follow-up on that, and I would assume if he was cleared, we won't get any word until his music hits in the Rumble. But I'm almost expecting Finn Balor at this point. Like, if he's not in it, I would be very surprised. But if he's not, I think we'll see him very, very soon, right around the corner here. My next surprise, Triple H. I don't know if a lot of people have Triple H or not.
Debbie does.
But like you said earlier, there has to be some way that Seth Rollins gets involved somehow on this pay-per-view. Like, you cannot leave him entirely off. So with Triple H kind of playing games with Rollins and making him lose his spot, I think that Triple H enters the Rumble, because, of course, this is assuming that Roman has won the title. Triple H enters the Rumble trying to regain control over the championship, and what better way to do that than to enter the Rumble and try to win? And then that's where you see Seth Rollins. He ends up jumping into the match anyway, not as an official entrant, and eliminates Triple H. That's kind of my bold prediction there. Another one, of course, I talked about this earlier. I don't think that it's going to happen, so I don't know if I can even use him on my surprise list, but Samoa Joe, for obvious reasons we talked about before. Another popular one that I would love to see come back, and I actually, when I wrote my column about booking WrestleMania, pegged him to face AJ Styles at WrestleMania, and that's Kurt Angle. He was removed from some outside bookings for this weekend, which has led to a lot of speculation that he could be in the Royal Rumble. It could be WWE just doing that to create the speculation on their own. Who knows? It's tough to really say. Angle has come out and said that he won't be in the match, but of course that means absolute diddly squat to me. That doesn't mean anything. He's not. If he's gonna be in it, he's not gonna come out and tell you. So let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And then last, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming there's going to be some kind of a legend, and I haven't really been able to figure out who. Like, I want to say somebody else involved with the Hall of Fame, like Diamond Dallas Page, but we've already seen that.
Yeah.
So I don't think you go back to that well again. So I'm going to go with another NXT guy, and you might have this as well, but I'm going to take the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger.
Yep.
Coming out at number 10.
Yeah. Well, Rachel's got Kurt Angle as her number 30. Debbie's got Triple H as her number 30. Rachel also has Ty Dillinger at number 10. I, too, have Ty Dillinger at number 10.
So that means it's not going to happen.
Right, exactly.
Too many of us know about it.
Right. I mean, I think it will just be like a novelty thing. I think they'd love to get that 10 pop, but who knows? My list is kind of boring in terms of surprises, and that means I'm going to get plenty of picks wrong, because it always happens. You just out of nowhere, The Godfather shows up, and there's usually at least one or two of those, and it's so wide open and so out there that, if I could pick somebody, I don't know. Actually, we got the network on. If anybody might do something like that, why not Christian?
Well, I mean, the concussions, I don't think
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they'd put him in the ring. See, I was trying to come up with somebody Texas related since they're in San Antonio, and
Probably not going to be
it
HBK.
ain't gonna be HBK. I can tell you that right now. But the first one that came to my mind was JBL.
Yep, that's a good one. Actually, I think Debbie had JBL as well. Yeah, that's a good pick too. In terms of surprises, I have two NXT guys and Finn Balor, and you already said them all. I said Joe. I put him in there, and I don't have him winning, but I have him right toward the end, and I have him reignite his battle with Finn Balor. So that's how I put that in. I have Dillinger at 10, and yeah, my list is boring in terms of surprises. I think
Yeah, like I said before, I had mentioned Kalisto. I could see him getting a spot, Apollo Crews getting a spot. I feel like you kind of have to give Kane a spot at this point, just to keep his run going. Just some other guys from the main roster that haven't been officially announced. You would imagine there will be a couple in there.
when I talk about my list toward the very end, just ending up with a ring full of just super heavyweights, I have Kane coming in right around the same time as Undertaker, just to have that dynamic once again. The Brothers of Destruction maybe sharing a ring for the last time, going at it. You've got Goldberg and Lesnar. You got Joe and Balor toward the very end. Here's my question, and this I have one. Do you think the loser of either championship match enters the Rumble?
I pondered that before, and I could see a scenario where it happens, but I think they might stay away from that this time. I'm not really sure. I didn't put anybody in there, if that's what you're asking. Like, I haven't actually physically sat down and written a list, but if I think about it, I can come up with one. And I don't foresee any of them in there.
This is the one that I did, because I was just fantasy booking, and obviously, if I were really fantasy booking and using the word fantasy, I would have Kevin Owens retain the Universal title, but I think he's probably going to lose, and I think he's going to be really pissed off, and I think that, something's going to happen where something Jericho does backfires. So I have Jericho in the match, and I have Owens
costing Jericho.
I have Owens coming out like 23, and then you can really have Jericho ham up his excitement that his best friend is here, and just tunnel vision. Kevin Owens is steaming, goes right into the ring. Jericho hugs him, and he just gets tossed right over the ring.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Or it could be another scenario, similar to what I said about Rollins, where he just interferes without even being a part of the match.
Sure. Yep.
I think either way is possible. So before we wrap up here, I never even brought up my winner for the Royal Rumble.
Ah, yes.
So after much debate, originally, I called for Finn Balor to win. But I think that I'm going to go with Randy Orton just based off of the plans that they have.
Yeah.
It makes sense that way. Like, I really would prefer for AJ to hang on to the title until WrestleMania. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. I'm definitely not against Bray Wyatt winning the title. But if it's just going to be a transitional thing where he goes to WrestleMania and then drops it to Orton, then I'm not a fan of that. I don't want to see that title getting flippy, I guess, or you know what I mean? So maybe that's where we finally see Bray get his big win over Orton, or just over anybody, to be honest, because he's never had one. Even the beginnings of this angle, when Kane got involved because Orton was hurt there, we both thought, what was that, No Mercy or something? I can't even remember now. It might have even been Backlash. Like, all right, this is where you give Bray a big pay-per-view win, and then he loses to Kane.
Right, yeah, that was not...
Nothing against
not cool.
Kane or anything, right. But, Bray Wyatt should be going over there. Come on now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of my thought. I think they'll stick with that, have Orton win the Rumble. Unless there's going to be a reverse scenario where, Bray wins the Rumble and then Orton wins the title at Elimination Chamber. That's entirely possible as well. But I'm going to stick with Orton just because, based off of the report that I read to open this up. So I know it's not too exciting of a pick, I guess, but it's a little out there.
Yeah,
It's probably one of those top 8 though that you really could make a case
I
for.
think you have to. You didn't ask me who my hokey number 30 pick was.
Yeah, who is your hokey number 30 pick anyway?
So I think we've all learned that when it comes to the number 30 entrant, you got to be careful because it either needs to be somebody that you know the fans are gonna get behind. You know, Triple H got to, even though Triple H was supposed to be the heel, you know, he got a
Babyface pop.
yeah, he got a huge pop and people loved it, and we all know what happened to poor Rey Mysterio a couple years before that when everybody wanted Daniel Bryan, and so Rey Mysterio ends up getting booed just for the sheer fact that he's not Daniel Bryan. So you need to do something at that number 30 spot.
That could be a good way to get James Ellsworth some cheap heat.
I originally was thinking of maybe Ellsworth at 30, and when it comes to cheap heat, that's where I'm going with this. And I think about this because there's a certain somebody who might be close to returning to the company. And I've got in all those, like, I'm looking at my 20 through 29. I got Ambrose and Wyatt and Cass and Owens and Lesnar and Taker and Kane, Goldberg, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor. It's going to be one after another, like, yes, wow, great, that's great, that's great. Now, all right, so here comes number 30. And the roof blows off, and people mark out when Hulk Hogan's music plays. People are saying, no way. Like this, the whole arena's going nuts, and here comes Curtis Axel, because it's been reported that, you know, he's been bringing back his Axelmania gimmick at house shows. And so when he comes out and people realize that it's not Hulk Hogan,
I think he would get a huge pop, actually.
do you think so?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it could go one of two ways, but I was thinking, like, maybe...
I mean, people probably would boo, I guess, that it's not Hogan, but I think, I don't know, you might get a bit of a split crowd if that were to happen, where, you know, the older fans would be appreciating the efforts, you know.
So I guess it could go either way. I didn't even think about that. I was thinking to myself, man, the roof's going to blow off, and then people are going to say, what? And then when it's not Hogan, and then I'm thinking to myself,
I think you'd probably get that moment of, like, booing, but people are, like, laughing at the same time.
Right.
Kind of like a Jericho thing, you know? Like, he'll say something and people are booing him, but you're also laughing.
Sure. Well, and then I'm thinking to myself, because if Hogan's gonna actually come back before WrestleMania, which is totally up in the air. We don't know for sure, but there have been some talks that maybe, you know, the men's is going to be made and that Hogan might be back in good graces with the company by then. And I'm thinking to myself, if that happens, I feel like it must, because why would they bring back Axelmania?
Yeah.
If they didn't? And so I'm thinking, then
plus he's been, you know, they've been using his voice on network promos and stuff, you know, so they've been slipping him in there a little, maybe that's a bad term to use, but considering where all this started, but they're just slipping him in there real slow and nice.
Yeah.
Ease him on in there.
But I'm thinking, what a great time to bring Hogan back somewhere down the road. Have Axel come on TV a couple weeks in a row and you know, really ham it up, and then he gets confronted by the real Hogan.
Yeah, we never had any. Was there ever any interaction between them?
I don't think so.
Before? I don't think there was either.
No, but I think that could be hilarious.
Yeah, I would pop for that. I think that would be great. So I guess it's not that hokey. I thought you were gonna say something like Gilbert or something like that. I mean, they probably could get him. I'm sure he's not up to much these days.
Right.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Of course, I didn't think that we'd get into TakeOver, but that's okay. I can give some rapid-fire picks later on in the intro or exit. So yeah, I know you got something pretty big that you've talked about a little bit on social media coming up next week. Why don't you let the people in on it?
Well, we've got another interview on next week's Top of the Morning podcast.
Co-hosted by Doug Berrill.
Right, and...
who is essentially hosting. And
right.
I'm doing the easy part this time.
I took the lead on the questions because, as a lot of people know, I'm a bit of a WCW mark.
A bit.
And we were joined by Ray Lloyd, who is best known for his time in WCW as Glacier. And man, what a fantastic guy to talk to. You definitely want to check it out. He's so knowledgeable. He'd been in the business for 30 years. I learned so much. I don't want to give too much away, but let's just say I learned so much stuff about him that I didn't even know, and some of his relationships with some Hall of Famers, and yeah, man, fantastic guy to talk to. Definitely listen.
And he was great in those Mortal Kombat movies.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that?
Blood runs cold. Yeah, definitely want to check that out next week. So, again, you can find us on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, on the Pod Cruncher, all kinds of different ways to check out the show. So, definitely be on the lookout for that. Douglas, it's been real, and I will be seeing you tomorrow evening for some more of my 11 days of wrestling, or however long it is.
By the time this comes out, it was last night, so I'm gonna guess we had a great time last night.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I had a swell time. Yeah. It was neat. Very neat. Alright, hashtag TRR Army. That is all this week. That was episode 15 of the show with Doug Berrill, my good buddy, old pal, and fantasy football nemesis, even though we're in different divisions. But that's neither here nor there. Don't have to think about that for another 6 months, thank God. Need to definitely do a little more research, I guess, going into next year. So yeah, that's the show for this week. I'd like to encourage everybody to keep reading TopRopeReport.com for all the latest WrestleMania news and any other news in the world of professional wrestling. Hashtag Get On Top with TRR. You can follow us on Twitter at TRR Wrestling. We are also on Facebook at TopRopeReport.com with no dot, and we are on Instagram at TopRopeReport.com with no dot. You can follow myself at TRR_E Ames on the Twitter sphere, and Doug Berrill is also on there as well. And like he said, he'll be doing some live tweeting for the Royal Rumble on Sunday, so definitely hashtag Get On Top with Dougie, Giggity, if you'd like to join in the conversation. You can find him on there at TRR Doug. So until next time, make sure you check out past episodes of the Top of the Morning podcast, available on iTunes, also on SoundCloud, YouTube, and on Pod Cruncher. Go ahead and subscribe to the show. We definitely appreciate that. And like we mentioned before, we were talking about a couple of winners of the TRR Fan of the Month. When you retweet and you like us on social media and follow everything that TopRopeReport.com is doing, Doug Berrill definitely takes notice, and he will hook you up with some free TRR merch from the TRR shop. So it pays to hashtag Get On Top. Don't forget that. Until next time, my friends, always remember, it's not how hard you get knocked down, but whether or not you can kick out.